Mr. Gross, regarding this particular incident where supposedly China had access to FDIC computer systems for over a year, which I think would be a very significant issue to maybe have more information on than what we're sharing here today. According to the materials provided to the committee, the FDIC chose to intentionally violate its own policies and procedures and did not notify CERT, the Central National Authority responsible for tracking, analyzing, and coordinating responses to computer security incidents that attack U.S. government systems. Is this true?
Sir, as I said, I've reviewed that report, and it's actually great to kind of draw it at the scale. When you look at the APT that you're mentioning here versus an incident where we have trusted employees that left the organization, you can see why we drew the fact that the risk of harm to individuals were low. In this instance, if there was an APT in our environment, we would be taking active steps to address it. But I would have to defer to Mr. Gibson on the specifics that might be contained in the report as to who might have been penetrated or the extent of the penetration into the environment.
Mr. Gibson, can you provide any more enlightenment in whether they followed proper procedures by notifying a foreign entity?
They did not.
They did not. Thank you. Mr. Gross, it's my understanding that one of the steps taken by the FDIC to prevent further breaches was to shut off the use of USB drives on the computers at the FDIC. What percentage of the FDIC employees roughly still have access to their USB drives?
I believe we've reduced that number down to probably less than 50%. We still have a significant number. Our goal is zero. As I said, I've come from other federal agencies, so my goal is to reduce that down to zero. However, we have to work through different business processes that still require the use of that. And what I mean by that is our examiners have a need to exchange information with their 50 different counterparts that they work with in the field. So I can't immediately drive down to zero, but I can assure you and the committee, my goal is to get to zero on use of mobile media within the organization.
So with the 50% that you have disabled, were those the employees that have access to the type of the information that was breached? Or are those the 50% still remaining to be blocked?
The 50% that we have are primarily examiners that work out in the field and other components of the organization that still have an express business requirement for that. The goal, as I said, is zero. In our examiner area, we are actually rolling out technology right now, which we call our ETS system.
Right.
As we roll that out, we will begin to be able to have large numbers of those groups no longer have a need for the use of mobile media. So we're going to do this over time in specific business areas to be able to get to that zero threshold.
So if you had these 50%, I ask it this way, if the 50% you have blocked now was done 6 months ago, would it have prevented these incidents?
I can't say that for certain, sir, because these individuals were in various different parts of the organization. And even, as I said, it was an inadvertent download of the data.
Yeah. What have you done to prevent it from happening other than the USB drives?
Actually, what we've done to prevent it is we've, one, eliminated the use of mobile media across the organization only to those individuals that require it in order to complete their business processes. In order for those individuals to be able to use the removable media, it requires the approval of their division director.
Okay.
In addition to that, what we're also putting in place is encryption, is that any device that's placed into the machines, once that device is placed in the machine, it will automatically be encrypted. So those mobile devices that we do have in the environment would in fact have encryption, which would enhance their, the security on those devices if they're lost.
But it would not have prevented these actions from taking place?
I don't believe it would have.
Okay. Mr. Gross, it's interesting that some of these breaches were retroactively reported to Congress. It's clear that the OMB guidance and FSMA state anything over 10,000 instances of PII is to be reported to Congress. We have systems in place to trigger awareness at various government levels. If I go to the bank and withdraw $10,000 of my own money, that is immediately going to be reported. But certain employees at FDIC can download 10,000 individual PIs and it's not flagged. Is that a double standard?
Well, actually, sir, it is flagged. I think we have a best practice in the fact that we're using DLP to identify those instances. Prior to DLP, we would have been unaware that the employees were downloading that
But there was
information.
10,000 that were breached, that were disclosed or taken, but you did not report those within the 7-day window.
Sir, we don't have relief in reporting. I want to go back to that in that it's not a question of whether or not if it's going to be reported. All incidents within the FDIC are reported. The question is it reported within 7 days, 30 days, or is it reported in an annual FSMA report? So I want to make sure that it's understood is that there's no question about our transparency in reporting. It was in which time frame. And we wanted to draw the scale that we wanted to focus on, is this major? Is this an APT? Is this someone in our system? If we report on incidents that we have deemed as non-major, then we're reporting on everything. And then when we have an APT or a significant event, the risk you run is that these incidents are then lost in the noise. And I would hate to classify any incident as just noise, but we want to make sure that we're focusing our energies and our time around those incidents that pose significant risk of harm to individuals or the organization.
Okay. I have been very lenient with my time, and I will do the same to my good friend from Virginia.